Today, we're digging into a company called Ucore Rare Metals. Now, they have a really bold mission: to build a secure, North American supply chain for some of the most critical materials on Earth, and in the process, break China's absolute stranglehold on a sector that powers pretty much all of our most advanced technology.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get the big picture, why this corner of the market has suddenly become a massive geopolitical battleground. Then, we'll dive right into the bull case for Ucore and their pretty unique tech. But we're not going to stop there. We have to do a serious reality check on their financials. And finally, and maybe most importantly, we'll give you the exact milestones you need to be watching to see if this whole story actually plays out.
Okay, first things first, let's set the stage. To really get Ucore, you have to understand why people are calling these materials the new geopolitical oil. And that's not an exaggeration. They are every bit as critical to our world today as oil was 100 years ago. Ucore's CEO, Pat Ryan, uses this analogy, and it's perfect because it frames their entire strategy. He basically says, look, Rockefeller didn't get rich digging oil out of the ground. He got powerful by controlling the refineries. And that's the key here. The real power, the real money in rare earths isn't in the mining. It's in the incredibly complex and difficult process of refining. That's the choke point.
And don't let the name rare earths fool you. These things are everywhere. They are the essential seeds of modern technology. I mean, think about this. Almost 1,000 pounds of these elements go into a single F-35 fighter jet. They're in the motors of every EV. They're in these gigantic wind turbines. And they're absolutely critical for the AI data centers and missile guidance systems that define modern power.
Now, this is the number that really matters. People talk about who has the raw materials, and yeah, China has a lot, but that's a head fake. The real power, the true monopoly, is in refining. And look at this. China controls a staggering 95% of the global capacity. It does not matter who digs it out of the ground if you are the only one who can actually purify it and make it useful. You control the refining, you control everything.
And in April of 2025, this control went from just a strategic advantage to an outright geopolitical weapon. China was very smart about it. They surgically targeted 7 specific heavy rare earths, the ones absolutely essential for the high-performance magnets used in our most advanced defense tech. And here's the kicker. To even apply for an export license, companies now have to hand over their crown jewels, incredibly sensitive data. It's basically industrial espionage baked right into the export process.
So, that is the massive problem that Ucore claims it can solve. With all that as a backdrop, let's jump into the bull case for the company and what their plan for Western independence actually looks like. So how are they going to do it? Well, this slide gets to the heart of their entire pitch, their technology called RapidSX. They claim it's a total game changer. On one hand, you have the conventional way China does it, thousands of tanks, sprawling, dirty, and insanely expensive. On the other hand, you have RapidSX, a much smaller, cleaner, column-based system. And the numbers they're claiming are pretty wild. A conventional plant costs over $400 million, while Ucore says they can build one for under $100 million. And maybe the most important part, it's flexible. It can process materials from lots of different sources, so they're not tied to just one mine. Now, this technology isn't just a theory on a PowerPoint slide. It's attracted some very serious attention from the U.S. Department of Defense. They've committed up to $22.4 million in non-dilutive grant funding. And for an investor, grant money is the absolute best kind of money. It's validation from a key customer, and it doesn't water down your shares. And according to the CEO, this was the direct feedback they got from the DoD after an initial trial. I mean, you literally couldn't ask for a more powerful endorsement, especially from the one customer who needs a domestic rare earth supply chain more than anyone else on the planet. This government support is a huge part of the strategy, but their business plan shows another layer of some really savvy thinking. Ucore is building its first big plant down in Louisiana, and they specifically picked a site that's inside a foreign trade zone. This is a really clever move. It lets them bring in raw materials from allies, process them, and then ship the finished high-purity product out to other partners, all without getting tangled up in tariffs. Okay, so the story so far is really compelling, right? A massive geopolitical problem, a promising new technology, serious government backing. It sounds fantastic. But, and this is a big but, for every compelling story, there's a balance sheet. Now we've got to flip the coin over and do a serious reality check on the financial risks. This is the single most important question for any investor. The vision is there, no doubt, but can the company actually survive long enough to make it a reality? Let's see what their own filings tell us. And right here, this is the first major red flag. Ucore is what's called a development stage company. In plain English, that means they're pre-revenue. They're
They're not selling anything yet. They've just been spending millions and millions of dollars to build out their technology, and they have a long history of accumulating losses.
And these numbers, pulled right from their latest financial statement, they paint a very stark picture. In just the first 6 months of 2025, the company burned through almost $8.8 million. Their total accumulated deficit, that's all their losses added up over the years, is now over $105 million. And they're carrying almost $9 million in debt. This is just the financial reality when you're trying to build a massive industrial project from scratch.
But this sentence, right here, buried in Note 2 of their filings, this is the most critical one for any investor to see. Their own auditors are saying that the company's ability to continue as a going concern depends entirely on them getting more money.
So what does that actually mean? Well, a going concern warning is a formal red flag from the accountants. It basically says there is significant doubt the company can stay in business for the next year unless it raises more capital. It doesn't mean they're definitely going to fail, but it absolutely means their survival is not guaranteed.
Okay, so you've got this incredible high-stakes tension, right? A compelling vision on one side and a really challenging balance sheet on the other. So how does an investor track this? What are the concrete signs that the bull case is actually winning out over the bear case?
It really all boils down to this one crucial race. The entire investment thesis, everything, hinges on whether Ucore can hit its operational targets and start generating revenue before that financial clock hits zero.
So, if you're an investor, this is your dashboard. These are the 3 tangible signals you have to watch for. First, look for news of definitive, binding feedstock deals. Handshakes and MOUs are nice, but signed contracts are what actually matter. Second, watch for customer offtake agreements, firm commitments from real buyers who are going to take the finished product. And third, track the real-world progress of that Louisiana plant. They're targeting the first half of 2026 to get it running. If they hit that target, it's a massive signal that they can actually execute.
And ultimately, that's the question on the table, isn't it? Is Ucore's plan a masterstroke that solves a genuine national security crisis? Or is it just a very high-stakes bet against a very real and very unforgiving financial clock? The vision is there, the technology looks promising, and they have strategic government backing. But those financial risks are undeniable. For any investor, the answer isn't going to be found in the story. It's going to be found in the cold, hard execution of those milestones we just talked about. That's what's going to determine if this incredibly ambitious plan actually becomes a reality.